What does it mean to you to be here, first of all?
It means a lot because it's really to say goodbye to an extraordinary man and to commemorate someone who did so much, not just for South Africa, but also for the world in terms of the inspiration that he gave. Most of all, I think, the fact he was able to forgive those that had done so much wrong to him. He set an example to leaders and to politicians, to his people and to the world that really doesn't have a parallel.
The Queen Elizabeth, was very saddened by his passing, and he had several visits to Buckingham Palace, and they got on, it seemed, very well. But obviously he had a difficult relationship with Britain during the anti-apartheid time. Margaret Thatcher was not pro the sanctions. Tell me the evolution of the relationship between South Africa and Britain on this regard.
Well, it's always said he had this amazing relationship with the Queen, and indeed I think he's the only person who can get away with calling her Elizabeth, so the story.
Really? Is it true?
That is what I'm told. Britain has very close ties and very close history with South Africa. I think everyone in Britain opposed the apartheid regime. Margaret Thatcher opposed the apartheid regime and indeed called for Mandela to be released. But there was an argument about sanctions back in the 1980s, and as I've written about this in the past, not sure that the Conservative Party took the right calls. But I think everyone was saying apartheid had to change, it had to go, and we needed a multiracial democratic South Africa. I think what no one quite believed was that it would come about as peacefully as it did. And that really was down to Mandela. We shouldn't also forget what F.W. de Klerk did, the fact that he made some very brave moves, but really the struggle of Mandela, but followed by the grace and forgiveness of Mandela, is what gave this country an extraordinary chance to be, I think, one of the success stories of the 21st century.
And what do you think now in the post-Mandela era? Obviously, much of Africa has gone democratic since he was released, but people are very concerned about the ANC, the corruption, the income inequality, South Africa's economic stance right now. Where do you think the hope for the future lies, including in politics?
Well, there's obviously a lot of work to be done, but I'm an optimist. If I look across Africa, you can see some democratic success stories now, you can see some economic success stories, and South Africa has the opportunity to be the economy that's the engine of Southern Africa. And I think if they follow the example of Mandela, and remember, in politics, it matters a lot what your recent history, what your institutions are, what examples you choose to live up to. Now, all the people here have got the most amazing icon for their future politicians to try and live up to. Now, whether they will or not is a matter for them, but it does matter. It's rather like in British politics when you have, massive figures like Winston Churchill that have sat in the chair that you now sit in. It doesn't mean, sadly, that you're automatically like them, but it does mean that you've got heroes to try and live up to. The people of South Africa, indeed all of Africa, in Mandela, have an immense icon who I think will be looking down at them in the future, and they'll be looking up to him and hopefully emulating and treasuring his memory.
Prime Minister, thank you on this day.